You're all very welcome here this morning, and thank you for joining us. And it's really important for us that you hear about how important and impactful this work is going to be. The open community in CAIRDE will create life-changing opportunities for families who've come from extreme hardship and war. As a society, we have a chance now to make a real difference, and we're very excited to be presenting information about this today, and we hope you'll spread the word. We'll start straight away and go to Conor Platt, who's the Community Sponsorship Coordinator with the Open Community, who will give an outline of the scheme and how it works and how you can get involved and make a real difference. So I'll hand over to Conor now.
Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us, and obviously thanks to Jeanne and her team for helping us to put this session together today. So yeah, as Jeanne said, I'm Conor Platt, and I'm the project coordinator, project lead at the Open Community. So today I'll provide a short overview of what community sponsorship is, as well as who the Open Community is and what our role is within the programme, as well as then provide an overview and details about the CAIRDE network and the Allies Partner Network. So hopefully it becomes clear of how you can engage and support our work in community sponsorship too. Okay, so first of all, what is community sponsorship? So as it says here, community sponsorship is an innovative model of refugee resettlement. And whilst it's relatively new to Ireland, it's not new in a broader or the wider context. So it was pioneered in Canada in the 1970s. And in the intervening years since, over 300,000 people have been welcomed to Canada under their sponsorship program. So it's been a huge success there. And what we're now seeing is a huge interest in the development of new community sponsorship schemes right across Europe, but also globally as well. And in Ireland, we had a successful pilot program in 2019, and we are now in the process of transitioning into a full and national program. So under community sponsorship, communities and individuals come together and they take the leading role in resettling families into their local areas. They form what are called community sponsorship groups, sometimes referred to as CSGs, and there are a minimum of 5 people, but generally speaking, we're talking about 8 or 10 people. So they come together and then they provide supports to a refugee family of all the things that would help anybody to settle into a new community. So things like finding employment, connecting to social services, enrolling in schools, as well as providing accommodation and so on. The supports provided by the group are obviously dependent on the individual family's needs, but last for a period of 18 months. And accommodation support is provided for 2 years. At each stage then, there's a wealth of support available to groups as they develop what's called a settlement plan. So part of the application process is they develop a plan which details how they will offer those supports to the family. So the support at that stage, there's also support when the family arrives and throughout the sponsorship period. So that support is offered by ourselves as the Open Community, which I'll touch on in just a moment, but also we work very closely with our regional support organizations. Again, another acronym, but sometimes referred to as RSOs. And they are existing NGOs within the refugee and migrants' rights sector in Ireland, and they provide expert guidance, advice and training throughout the period and to every single group. So that's a very quick overview of community sponsorship, just to set the scene initially. But what I'd like to do now is just play a very short video that we've put together, which tells the story of the first family who arrived in Ireland under community sponsorship. And I think it encapsulates the impact the program can have, and also gives you a better idea of what it actually entails than I can just speaking to you. So I mean, hopefully this video will work. I'll try and play it just now.
So this is the girl herself. So this was the only photo we had of her before she came. She's just such an innocent, small child, and you kind of wonder, you know, what journey has she been on? This was such a huge change in her life at such a young age. I felt her vulnerability and thought, you know, this is the right decision.
We were very, very scared because it's a new country. You don't know how you will be treated. You don't know how people see you.
I thought the airport was going to be empty. I was not expecting all the community sponsorship to be there.
Hello.
I just remember thinking, I want to give them a hug, but I don't know if it's appropriate, so I'll just ask. I'll just ask, is it okay to give you a hug? I'll give you a hug. You're welcome. You're welcome.
I felt my smile could reach my ears here.
I just wanted them to hear the first couple of minutes of arriving that they were welcome, because they were very welcome.
The first morning I woke up and walked here to the living room. My daughter was flying like a butterfly, and it was freedom.
This I do not actually know what we were doing.
That's when you used to be cute. Do you remember those days? About 2 months after they arrived, we had a coffee morning, and people who I had never seen before, and I've been living here 20 years, turned up to have tea, have coffee, have chat, and meet the family and make them feel welcome. So I was very proud of the village.
Okay, great. So I mean, I've seen that video a number of times now, obviously, but I still find it very impactful every time I see it. So I hope it was for you too. But I think hopefully it gives a bit of a clear idea as to why we're coming to you today and hoping to get your involvement to help bolster and support our community sponsorship program in Ireland. So the next thing is the open community. So what is the open community? So we are the national support organisation for Ireland's community sponsorship program. And the open community represents a collaborative partnership between all of the program's key partners, including each of the regional support organisations, the RSOs, which I mentioned previously, as well as other key program stakeholders. So we work together collectively to develop supports and resources that help to scale and grow the program. So ultimately we have a sustainable program that welcomes as many people to Ireland as we possibly can. So to do that work, we have 3 key areas of focus. So one, which are outlined here for you. So one is coordination. So coordination of discussions with key stakeholders and partners to develop the program, to look at the institutional arrangements, infrastructural arrangements of the program to make sure that everything works and that we can scale the program. The next piece is around developing resources collectively that then made available to the wider program. So at the bottom of the slide here, there's a couple of resources which we'll actually be looking to release next week. So one is our website, which is an information website that provides a complete overview of community sponsorship and details how you can get involved. We also have a new multilingual mobile app, which is in English and Arabic, and provides information on lots of different aspects of Irish life to help aid integration outcomes, basically. And then we have a new suite of online training that will be available through the website and on an online learning center. So those are some of the resources. And then the last piece, which is promotion. So we promote the program nationally in, I suppose, a traditional sense in terms of with the website and social media and telling stories, etc., but also at an organizational level, which brings us to our Cordia Allies Partner Network. So our aim with the network, which we're rolling out in partnership with Open Doors Initiative and Jeanne's team, is to develop what we call a whole of society approach. So if we want a program of community sponsorship to scale and to grow and to have the impact that we hope to see, we need to include many different areas of our society in that process. So we're looking to you to bring in supports and expertise of organisations like yourselves from various different sectors and industries to help support that process. So on this slide here, you'll see we have identified a few overarching suggestions in terms of what engagement might look like as a partner, as an allies partner. But what we are on hand to do is to work with you to help identify and tailor any engagement so that it suits you and your organization, and we can make it as impactful as we can. So if we look at these broad asks first, the first is, can you promote sponsorship across your existing networks? You have rich existing networks already available. So can we promote sponsorship as a model across your networks to help promote the program, but also, if possible, to help the formation of new community sponsored groups. And in this circumstance, we are available to come and deliver information sessions to interested individuals or groups, which would detail the program in more detail and signpost people in terms of next resources, etc., etc. The next one we have here is providing industry expertise to support the program and to help meet issues or challenges that may arise for groups or families or for the program more generally, as well as provide funding if possible. So we're looking to develop a community sponsorship fund, a backstop or emergency fund that would support the development of groups and help support families once they arrive in Ireland. The next here is, could community sponsorship form part of corporate social responsibility commitments? And one of the ways that we've suggested here is that could volunteer days be used to help support community sponsorship activities, whether it's for new community sponsorship groups to meet and to develop their settlement plan or application pieces and their fundraising, and then to welcome a family, or activities to help support the program in another way. And then the last one is there a possibility to provide training and or employment opportunities, and this would extend to things like mentoring or CV support or job development support. So as I said, those are just a few of the sort of broad ways that we think that allies can support and engage. But again, we would be more than happy to meet and support and sort of tailor that engagement in any way necessary. Just before I pass back over, so another piece of our allies partner network which is really important is we have a pledge, sort of I suppose it's an aspirational pledge or a symbolic pledge, if you like. It's not binding in any way, but it just sort of cements a commitment in terms of the ethos and the notion of what we hope to achieve through community sponsorship. So we've picked out what I think is the sort of the principal line within the pledge, which encapsulates again what we're hoping to achieve, which is the idea of meeting the challenges, of which there are likely to be many as we continue to grow the program and welcome more people to Ireland, but also to realise the very unique opportunities that this model of refugee resettlement offers. So we're looking for you as industry experts and leaders of our society to help us find innovative and creative ways to bolster and support the development of the program. So that's all for me. So thank you again for joining us. We do appreciate you being here today and hearing a bit more about the network and about our work in community sponsorship and more generally. Please get in contact with us. We have a comprehensive set of FAQs which details the network in much more detail that we are happy to share. We can share the pledge with you, and we can connect with you on an individual basis to help tailor your engagement, which will hopefully allow you to help support the development of community sponsorship here in Ireland. So thank you very much again, and I'll pass back to Jeanne.
Oh, I don't know about you, but that video just raised the hairs, and I have a lot of hair, so there was a lot of hair raising, but I just find it so impactful. I just find stories like that so important. And with that, we're going to now move on to Paddy Doyle, who's a director with eFrontiers. And he's an employer who's pledged to take part in the open community. And he's going to explain now why he thinks it's so important and why he wants, and his company want to take part. Paddy, over to you.
Thanks, Jeanne. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today, and thanks to Conor for that presentation there. by way of a small bit of background about ourselves, we're I suppose a medium-sized recruitment company. Started off 15 years ago by myself and two colleagues, Brendan and Vinny. And why this is important is I guess we started our business because we had the same value system around business and in life in general. And over the years, we've engaged in helping various initiatives where asked, but in a very ad hoc way, and driven by us, the owners of the business, and not by the staff, or focusing on company values. And a real learning curve came for us about 5 years ago when we were asked by a charity organisation to hire a resource for them and help them find that person, and how much would we charge. So initially we agreed to do a reduced fee, and then we sat back and said, actually, this doesn't reflect where we wanted to go as a company. So we went back and we said, we'll do it for free, but on condition that we can meet your CEO. We want to know how we can help you on an ongoing basis to use our skills that we had in the company and to make a difference. And that decision there has ultimately led us here today, as it kind of exposed us to ways in which we can use our skills, our staff and our time to help people who are less fortunate. And what we've learned over the years is that to make a difference, you have to work on it. You have to think differently. It's all well and good saying we're members of initiatives and we pay a fee, which is vitally important too. But you know, you can't. But to make a real difference, you need to work within communities like CAIRDE and be prepared to open your mind to trusting and engaging your staff to be part of the solution to some of the problems that we have in society. You know, life is about people, and we need to remember that in business as well and make things happen. CAIRDE and the likes of the Open Doors Initiative, in particular CAIRDE in this scenario, actually provides us, or will provide us with a framework where we can use these skills and use our expertise to help in a meaningful way. Over the years, we've had some success stories and some initiatives we've had, and I have to say that in terms of the impact in the company, the feeling within the company is just something you can't get by a night out or a voucher that you get your staff. Like the feeling of your staff actually feeling like they're making a difference, you just can't buy that. And as business owners, we want to feel like we're making a difference. We want to, you know, the more we talk to our staff, the more we understand they want more than the day-to-day tasks that they're doing. Staff want to feel that they're making a difference. They enjoy it, but they really just need the opportunity and the trust to go and do that. And CAIRDE will provide us and other companies, hopefully, with the platform to engage in this and provide proper welcomes to people who've been through so much and deserve an opportunity to start a new life.
Thank you very much, Paddy. Really appreciate your time today and the thinking about why you're getting involved. So hopefully that will help encourage more employers to think actually there's benefits to the company and to your employees by taking part in this initiative. I'd now like to invite Colm O'Gorman and David Stanton TD. Colm is the Executive Director of Amnesty International Ireland, who are overseeing the national platform for the open community. And with them is David Stanton, who's the former Minister for Equality, who was instrumental in the introduction of community sponsorship in Ireland. So we're just going to have a chat, and I'm going to ask them to explain their involvement over time and what this means to them. You're both very welcome. Thank you very much for your time today. And just to kick off, if you could both explain, maybe David first and then Colm, how you came to be involved in this amazing scheme.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, well, as you said, Jeanne, I was the Minister of State with responsibility for immigration and equality appointed in 2016. And part of that role involved looking after people, the refugees and asylum seekers. And I became aware through Amnesty and Colm of the community sponsorship program in Canada. I asked some of my officials to go there. They came back with glowing reports. The Canadians came over here. Colm was very much involved in that, and Amnesty as well, and other groups. And then I went myself to the UK to look at the project in operation. And I came back, as Paddy has just said there, inspired by what I saw. I mean, it was amazing to see families that had been through hell on earth being looked after, being loved, being cared for by the communities that they actually were being sponsored by. And you know, when you see children running in and running up onto the laps of their new grannies, you see the connection, you see and then the people progressing and getting on and getting onto school and learning and reaching their full potential. And like as Colm knows better than I know, we have I think maybe 80 something million displaced people in the world, maybe over 20 million refugees. So if a community, if a business, if an organization can help out and support and do a little bit, if enough communities do a little bit, a lot can happen. I also met the Canadian Foreign Minister for Refugees in Geneva, and we compared notes as well. And as you said, they have brought in so many people and they have benefited so hugely from the scheme. So we learned a lot from our Canadian friends, and thankfully then we got the initial project up and running, a pilot scheme, and there are 2 in my own area here, and the families have settled in so well. And the communities have benefited so well too by coming together and have actually, I suppose what St. Francis says, it's in giving you receive, and that's really true. And I think Paddy alluded to that just earlier on as well. And I'm also excited by this particular interaction today, because when I was in the ministry, I met a lot of businesses and companies, and you know what, the management and the workers are really looking for ways to reach out to help and to support. And what's happening here today, as Conor said earlier on, is a way of assisting and supporting companies and businesses and workers to do something that's really, really good and impactful. So that's how I got involved, and that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Thank you, David. Colm, do you want to say a few words?
Sure, yeah. Hi, Jeanne, and lovely to see you again, David. Even if virtually, it's been a little while in this odd world we're all living in at the moment. Yeah, my involvement in this stems back to early 2017. So Amnesty had as one of our global priority issues that we were focused on work on refugees and migrant rights generally. But in particular, we had 2 major concerns. First of all, that there was a very strong sense of hopelessness out there in the world, you know, that somehow the refugee crisis, as it's constantly described, and it is a crisis for refugees as opposed to a crisis for the world or for countries that should be hosting refugees. It was being presented as something that was intractable and irresolvable. And David referenced some numbers there earlier, and they sound like very big numbers, don't they? I mean, 26 million refugees who need urgent resettlement. So 26 million people who need to be resettled. That sounds like a very big number. But actually, it's less than 0.3% of the global population. This is not a big number. It's not a big number in the global context. What we were doing in Amnesty was we were looking around for opportunities where we could identify what are described as alternative pathways, new models or new ways of boosting resettlement numbers and options for resettlement that could mean that we could resettle more people over time. But then equally, we're also very concerned about some of the rhetoric out there, particularly in other parts of the world, that's very toxic, that's very divisive. We are very conscious of the fact, and thankfully it's never really been an issue here in Ireland, that in many parts of the world, particularly what are seen as strongmen leaders, are inclined to use the issue of refugees, demonizing refugees and stigmatizing them to shore up some level of popular support. That was a big issue. So the narrative in parts of the world around the issue were really problematic. And as we scoped around the world looking for good models of, models of really good practice in other places, we were drawn to Canada, where for well over 30 years now, they've had this model of what they call private sponsorship that sees local people at a community level come together and welcome. In Canada, the language they use says everything about how this model has impacted the conversation on refugees and on migration in Canada, where they have communities come together to welcome newcomers to Canada. So it's about receiving and welcoming newcomers and helping them to establish and build a new life. And all of the newcomers in the context of this program, of course, are refugees. So I had the privilege of going out with 6 other Amnesty colleagues from other parts of the world to look at what was happening in Canada. And I was so impacted and affected and enthused about it that I came back very much an evangelist for this model. I just thought it had such potential. And we heard a little bit in the video clip from earlier on, and David mentioned it, and Patrick has mentioned it as well. Beyond what this program can do in terms of providing protection to people who desperately need it, and that's critically important, that's at the heart of what this is about. Its impact upon communities and on welcoming communities and societies is really extraordinary. You heard in the video our lovely community sponsor from Dunshaughlin in County Meath talking about how when they held their first event, people that she'd never seen before arrived at the event, and she'd lived there for 20 years. I saw that repeated in all kinds of settings across Canada, from everything from a meeting with Accenture in Ottawa, who ran a big program across their company. And the person who ran the program said, we did this because it was the right thing to do and because our people wanted to do it in response to this humanitarian crisis. in no way did we imagine the impact that this would have on our organization. And she said, you know, we have people now who are working together on this project, who believe passionately in it, who operate in different parts of our company, who would never otherwise have met. And the synergy that's being created through the networks and communities and relationships that have been developed for us has been an extraordinary valuable impact for us as a business and as an organization. Similarly, I saw that in another community in Toronto, where the sponsorship group was built around a local parish church, but this was for want of a better word, a more gentrified area of Ottawa, where the original parishioners from the church had moved out to the suburbs and away from this community. And the people who lived around the church now weren't members of the parish, but they had to ally to the parish to form their group. So suddenly you saw this new network being established in this community that was the old community and the new community. And they came together, and again, you saw profound relationships being developed across that community. So the impacts for receiving communities and organizations are huge. They're fantastic. So when I came back to Ireland, there were already a number of organizations here, civil society organizations, NASC, the Refugee Council, the Red Cross, a range of other organizations who were interested in looking at a model like this. And we convened at a civil society level first. There was a lot of enthusiasm for the model. And then we reached out to government and to the Department of Justice in the first instance, and there was an openness to it. And I have to say, David's role as a champion for this program as minister, I think actually was the critical piece to get the program up and running. I think without David's championing of this, it wouldn't have happened as quickly as it did, or be anything like as effective as it has been. So it's been a joy. One of the lovely things then as well, it's been, you know, when we talk about the quality of relationships that form, this is a brilliant example of a whole of society, you know, government, the state, and civil society in all of its forms coming together with a common purpose to do something that everybody passionately cares about. And magic happens when that opportunity is presented. One of the things that we've been hugely conscious of since we looked at developing the program here was that for this to succeed, for this to achieve all of the magic that it can achieve, it needs to be a genuinely whole of society program. And it can't just be the NGO world and government. It can't just be a section of the NGO world and some government departments. This needs to offer ways in and opportunities for everybody to do this together. Because actually, the reason why community sponsorship delivers so well, the reason why the integration outcomes generally for refugees who arrive via sponsorship are generally more positive after 5 years than people who arrive from state programs, is because the magic happens at the level of community. The skill sets, the resources, the local knowledge, the human capital that comes together from across a community can't be matched by the state, can't be matched by the NGO world alone. So the magic happens when everybody comes together. And that means anybody who has skills to bring. And the skills that we bring are empathy, compassion, a desire to support another, to welcome people with a hug, with open arms where possible, but also to show them how to navigate the local supermarkets, how to navigate the education system, how to access employment, how to build a new life. And of course, then the skills that we've talked about through CAIRDE, how to build a program and to make it truly cross society. And those are the kind of skills and resources that can be harnessed and leveraged if we get a whole of society response. And in that regard, one of the really exciting things for me as Director of Amnesty here in Ireland is, you know, we wanted the Irish program to be a model of Canada Plus. So we wanted to take that idea and to see what we could do to deepen and enrich and build and strengthen that program, and then offer that as something that people in other parts of the world could also begin to look at. So there's huge learning that's coming out of what we're doing here in Ireland now that is feeding into the development of these programs in other parts of the world as well. And it's, I have to say, but 4 years on, I'm as excited about this program, or even more excited about this program than I was when I first went to Canada in 2021. It's been an absolute joy to be involved in it so far.
Thank you, Colm. You've gone through all my further questions and answered them all. So thank you for that.
You did say briefly and I ignored you completely, which is terrible, yeah.
But one thing I would like to find out more from both of you is, you're both obviously hugely vested in this, and I want to know why on a personal level. And maybe David, you could tell me, I mean, I'm sure you were very busy as minister, I'm sure you had a lot of things on your plate, but why this program? What has it meant to you?
Yeah, well, when I went to London and Manchester, and when I saw myself the result of this, and as Colm has said, the interaction between the people, the families, the community, and the refugees who came in, and how benefit, and the people said to me, you know, that they gained more from this than anything else they ever did in their lives before. And some people I met were people who had been in business, who had, you know, who were kind of, we'll say, retired people who had been through a lot in their lives and who were very experienced people. And when someone like that says to you, you know what, I got more personally out of doing this than anything I've done in my whole life, I said, there's something in this. And on top of that, then when I was in the Department of Justice, and I must pay tribute to Evelyn Byrne and John Rycroft and others in there who put a huge amount of work into this, because a minister can do so much, but if the officials are with you, you can move a lot, you can do an awful lot more. And I must say that they were really, really fantastic in the work they did. When Alan CAIRDE died in 2015 and his body was seen on the beach in Turkey, that little child, there was an outpouring across the country here. We must do something. There were communities who felt we've got to do more, we've got to do something. What can we do? And this is something practical and tangible and impactful that communities, that business, that individuals can actually do. But I want to say one thing. We're dealing now with real people. Refugees who come here are here for life. You know, and you're talking about very vulnerable people. You're talking very often about people who have been through traumas that none of us, thankfully, in our worst nightmares can even begin to imagine. If you can imagine the worst horror film you've ever seen and multiply it by 10, some of these people have been through this. They've lost maybe family members, some of them have been tortured, they've been through awful hell on earth, that's what I describe it. And so, you know, they need a lot of support. And you're going to have days when they're going to be upset and crying and, you know, and all that. And that's something that the community groups have to be prepared for as well, and be there to support them. Now, the people that I've been involved in locally here and across the country were amazing. The people that really got involved here in supporting were absolutely amazing. They really were. And this whole issue hasn't gone away. So far this year, we have 640 people have drowned in the Mediterranean. That's 2 jumbo jets, and not a word, very little spoken about it in the press or anywhere. You know. You know, we've had, it's the worst year since 2017, and we now see what's happening in Afghanistan, where an awful lot of people will be moving out of there as well. We see last week, thankfully, the United Nations voted to keep the gateway open to northern Syria from Turkey to allow food and medicine and sustenance in there. So this hasn't gone away; it's still out there. But you know what? If a community or a business can help one family and support one family and settle one family, the benefits are immense. And that's all we're asking to do. And I'm really delighted to see business getting involved, because in my work, when I as a TD and as a minister, I realize how much business can offer, and people working in business can offer, and want to offer and want to get involved. And this is so practical. But it's the other issue to watch here is that the housing situation is obviously a big issue in Ireland, and to ensure that, you know, the families that come in need some form of permanency as well. So accommodation is going to be a challenge. And I suppose the ultimate aim, I'm sure Colm will agree here, is that the family integrates, people that come in integrate and become independent and be able to stand on their own 2 feet, and they want to give back to society. That's the ultimate aim.
Thank you. Colm?
Yeah, I mean, on one level, it's quite a simple way to put it, I suppose, in some ways, and I'll expand on it afterwards. But for me, it's because a program like this is the best of who we are. Like, this is the best of humanity responding to the worst of humanity at times. You know, the kind of atrocities that people have experienced, the kind of situations that people are fleeing when they become refugees, that's the worst of us. The kind of welcome, the willingness, the genuine open-hearted desire of people to help and respond, to provide sanctuary, to provide safety, to help people to rebuild their lives, that's the absolute best of us. And in my life, I'm happy to say that a thing I discovered quite early on. It's never been disproven to me. And that is that if we create an environment within which the best of our humanity can emerge and respond to the worst of it, it happens because it's who we are. At the heart of what it means to be human is to live in a healthy, loving, life-affirming way. I honestly believe that. It has always been my experience that when we offer that opportunity, that's what emerges. And it emerges in particular when we see the darkness that exists in humanity as well. So, you know, that response in 2015 to Alan Kurdi's death was a global response. In Ireland, what we heard a lot of the time was, I remember people calling me and saying, I really want to do something, but I feel completely hopeless and helpless. What can I do? And this program is not about giving people something tokenistic that they can do. This isn't about responding to people's sense of hopelessness. Instead, it's reaching past that sense of hopelessness and seeing that what people want is to be powerful, is to respond, is to help. And this program about then is harnessing that desire, harnessing the best of our humanity to do something powerful and impactful that can change everything utterly, because we are not hopeless. We are not helpless and we are not powerless. We are powerful beyond measure, particularly when we're giving the means to exercise that power. There's an amazing video from the UK program, and it's a local group in Fishguard who were one of the first groups in the UK to welcome a family. And the brilliant lead sponsor in that group says at the end that somebody once said to her, "Sure, what you're doing here is just a drop in the ocean." And her response was, "Yes, but the ocean's made up of drops." And that's, for me, what this program is about. And it is about harnessing the collective will and the collective skills and love and humanity of people across this country and across the world to respond to an urgent need that is eminently manageable. We can absolutely deal with this crisis as it's portrayed if we mobilize our collective resources and respond, as I said at the beginning, from the best of who we are. In terms of how the program is working then here, I mean, David's quite right about some of the challenges that exist, but we've built a brilliant program and there are a whole suite of resources that are available for community groups. I mean, in the next week, we'll be launching the Open Community website. We've been working with all of our partners within the program, all of the regional support organisations, NASC, the Refugee Council, Doris Lumley, the Irish Red Cross, to develop an online learning platform and support platform for new sponsorship groups. All of that's going to be up and running in the next week. And in reality, what we've done over the last year is we've taken advantage of the fact that there has regrettably been a pause to resettlement because of the pandemic. So resettlement has been largely paused, even though it's recommenced in Ireland now on a couple of occasions and people are finally arriving again. And we've been able to use that time to really build the kind of infrastructure and resource bank that we need to take the program here in Ireland to the next level. And in the coming 6 to 12 months, that's really going to start to happen. We need to be ready to ramp up this program in order to be able to make best use of it and deliver the kind of impact that it can have. So if people get involved now in CAIRDE today, it's to help us prepare and build up this network and this program so that we can ramp up community engagement right across the country and support, as I said, the will of people to do something really powerful and impactful in the face of a crisis like this. So, I mean, for me, it really is, as I said at the beginning, it's as simple as the reason why I passionately believe in this, because it is the best of us. It is absolutely the best of who we are. And I've seen that anywhere. I've seen it in Canada, in the US, in the UK, in new programs that are developing all over the world, in New Zealand. It is the best of humanity wrapped up in really, really powerful action.
Thank you both. I've heard Colm and David speak of this on a number of occasions, and every time it just makes me think, exactly to your point, what more can we do? What more can we do? It's so vital, it's so important, and it makes such a difference to people's lives who are coming here, as you both pointed out, from the worst of the worst, from hell on earth, and to be able to make some impact and make some change and help them. I think it's a gift to us as a nation and as a welcoming nation to be able to help in some way. So thank you both again.
And to be changed by it. Sorry to jump in, Jeanne, and interrupt you, but also, you know, that piece about what we get from this. David referenced it earlier on as well. You know, consistently, and you've heard it from David and I through our involvement in this program, and we haven't been, I want to sponsor, I'm waiting for an opportunity to do that. And I'm really excited about what I'll learn from that and how my life will be enriched by that as well. But we gain so much through doing this work ourselves. And yeah, we've talked an awful lot about, or we've referenced the kind of horrors that people have come through. But one of the most inspiring things for me about this program is when you see the resilience of people who've endured that kind of persecution, when you see their desire, because sometimes you know, people can be objectified in this. They're seen as their trauma. They're seen as victims of this or that or the other. And as you just saw in the video that we played earlier on, they are people like you and I, like all of us, who want to love and live and thrive. And when they're presented with that opportunity, that's exactly what they'll do. So one of the most inspiring things about all of this is also the resilience that you experience or see in people who arrive, and what that tells you about yourself and your own potential, and about our own humanity. Sorry, I'll start off again now, and I know you're trying to move on, so I'll stop.
Not at all. Just take from that, I think it's an opportunity for all of us here today, and for anyone we meet and anyone we talk to about what we've heard, to help families love and live and thrive. It's a gift. It's a gift to us, and it's a gift to them, and it'll make society a better place. So Jeanne, we could sit here all day. So David?
Can I just pop in for one little thing to round off
the
Canadian bit, maybe to close the circle here. In 1847, there were 38,560 Irish refugees ended up in Toronto between May and October. And Bishop Michael Power there said to the people, we must look after these people and bring them in. And look at the difference they've made to Toronto. I mean, they built the city, but they came from hell on earth at that time. The famine and Black 47 ended up in Toronto. So the Canadians and ourselves appreciate the refugee experience. It's in our folklore, it's in our mindset here, going back generations. So thanks for having me today.
Thank you for that. And it is important to remember where we've all come from and look to the future of where we're going. So I'd like to thank all our participants. It's been hugely informative, really impassioned reasons why we have to do what we have to do. If any of you want to contact us, please do. We'd be happy to share the information, any more details you require to get involved. And thank you all for your time today. And thank you again to our speakers, who are brilliant as always.